Hello and welcome to Monday's episode of the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. I am your host, Craig Fowler, and I am joined by Graeme Thewliss.
Hello.
And Tony Anderson.
Hello there.
And we are going to be talking about the weekend's action in the Scottish Premiership, where Hearts were absolutely pumped by Rangers. Motherwell had their heart broken again for Park by Celtic, and Hibs were treated to the comedy goal of the season so far, I think it's fair to say, or at least the build-up to the comedy goal. The comedy build-up to the goal with Trevor Carson, after we had put him in the top four of our best goalkeepers in Scottish football this season. Just real comedy hijinks going on there while trying to claim a cross.
This whole weekend's just like a whole load of like, yes, this is everyone is who we think they are. Like, yeah, everyone is doing the things that we expect them to do.
And we shall begin with the game up in Dingwall, which was a huge relegation 6-pointer between Ross County and Livingston. However, just before I get into the action on that was a game I watched myself. That's our game that we're going to focus on right off the start. But I mentioned there that last weekend, some of you may have seen, that we released the top 10 goalkeepers in the Scottish Premiership. It's something we do. It's usually 12, but it's something we do every single season as our Thursday show as the campaign kind of rolls on and comes along to the end. But as you will have heard recently, I said that the plan now is for every week for there to be a lower league show on the main feed. And as we only produce 2 shows for free per week, that means that we've got somewhere we don't have anywhere to put the lists. So if people want to listen to the top 12 and top 10 lists now, then you will find them on the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Terrace Podcast. We will, however, release them at the end of the campaign. But obviously, by that point, if you're listening only on the main feed, they will be out of date. So, but there's a plus side to that, because you can listen to it and laugh at how wrong we were.
Craig, they're basically out of date as we're doing it. Like, not to take away from the Patreon content, but this is something we're going to come on to later. We'll talk about how we've basically cussed a bunch of goalkeepers last week. So who else can we fuck over this week?
Never seems to me that anyone fucking listens to the list episodes anyway. They just come and use the Twitter to look at the lineup and then go 2-footed on it of anyone who's been on it.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Right, let's get to the match in Dingwall. Ross County 3, Livingston 2. Ross County scored twice in the first half through Eamon Brophy. Livingston scored twice in the second half through Bruce Anderson. Very much a game of kind of two halves, in that County were the much better team in the first half. Livingston were better in the second half than County. Not quite the distance between the two sides in the second 45 as there was in the first, I would say. But then Ross County go and win it anyway through Josh Sims, who buries a finish late in injury time. I've got a lot of thoughts on this game, but just so I'm not just talking immediately off the bat about how this game went in terms of back and forth. Graeme, I'll start with you first. Is this it now? Is this Livy done?
Yeah.
You said last week they were done.
I'm pretty sure they're done. Like,
how can they get defeated this week by their closest rivals, but you seem less convinced they're done?
Because I paid more attention to St Johnstone this week. No, Livingston have just a couple of games in us in midweek and then St Johnstone at the weekend, which, like, as much as anything in this game, they showed a bit of flexibility. Obviously, at 2-0 down, things looked very, very bad, and Martindale did his job. He did a good job for the second half, turned the game around. Cowie didn't really respond at any point, which that in itself is quite worrying, I would say, potentially, if you're a Ross County fan. Obviously, you got the win, that's great, that's brilliant, but Cowie not responding to what felt like quite an obvious change at half-time in terms of how Livingston were playing, and then basically crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, and then kind of getting out of jail a little bit at the end of it, maybe. So yeah, I think they're done, but again, I'm very well aware of the fact that the last time we ran Celtic really close at First Park, we then went to Livingston and got absolutely bodied by them midweek. So that could very well be 3 points for Livingston in midweek. I have concerns, which we'll come on to, about St Johnstone as well. But yeah,
it's the beauty for the one good thing for Livingston is that Yengi looks like a big upgrade on maybe Guthrie as a sort of focal point centre forward who's a handful. And you could see with one of the goals, like the benefit that's having on someone like Bruce Anderson. When he came on, he looked like he had a lot more to play off with Yengi up there. So when you looked at, like, I was looking at the team just before we were coming on, and it's like, I don't know, when you've got Bruce Anderson, Mackay, Nubley, Shinnie, Yengi, you're thinking, maybe there is enough there. If certain people are informed that there's at least some goals coming, because it felt like for a while that Livingston couldn't even fucking score a goal, never mind win a game. So it's starting to morph slightly, but it just feels like they just have to win the next 2 games. There's no room for error now whatsoever.
It's funny that you say that, Tony, because actually in the second period, so the first half, County were much better side in the first half. The County lined up in a 4-3-3, so it was a slight switch to last week. So obviously most of the season been going with a 3 at the back. Last week against Dundee, they played a 4-4-2 and it didn't particularly work. So they're going with a 4-3-3 in this one. And for lots of the first half, you would have Simon Murray, who was on the left, would drop a little deeper and a bit centrally, but he was continually doing that and constantly getting on the ball. Now, it works for both goals 1 and 2. It is a ball kind of in behind for Eamon Brophy to run on. Obviously, Sangari plays a huge part in making it arse for the first one.
What did I say last week, Craig? That Sangari's got really good ability of just stepping in and just cutting out passes.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I was right and wrong on that, and his positioning was perfect. You can't argue with the man's positioning, is what I would like to say. So yeah, just to continue the theme of absolutely digging out, like burying players accidentally.
So Murray was excellent, and I thought Murray was best player for County across the entire game, but they were very impressive all the way through at the side. The midfield played well in the first half. Sheaf was good at recycling the ball. Jenks was a bit anonymous, as you could probably imagine he would be. Latore was making a lot of interceptions, and White was being a decent focal point. The defence was playing well. They were able to work the play up through the levels and play it from defence to midfield to attack, use the width of the pitch, whereas Livingston were just going long, and Yengi was getting dominated by Ryan Leake in the first half. It wasn't getting any joy at all. The only joy that we're getting going long was diagonal, not necessarily diagonals, but going towards Newbley, basically, because he was up against Josh Reed, which is, he's literally about half the size of him. But otherwise, Yengi wasn't really doing much. And then Anderson came on, and it was actually Anderson who was the better of the two players at making the ball stick. He was causing more problems for Leake and was able to get his back into him and take the ball into feet. And then from that point forward, Yengi started to play well. Because I think, as well, as soon as Livingston got back into the game, now, obviously it comes right after half-time, but if you were on the context of the first half, the goal kind of comes from nothing, and all of a sudden, County looked quite rattled, basically. Especially the first 5 or 10 minutes after the goal, they really kind of were all over the place a little bit, and you kind of thought, well, this is a team that themselves haven't won in a long time. And their confidence is obviously very brittle. They did get a certain degree of control about themselves again, but still Livingston, by that point, had their tails up. And Livy in the second half were just so much better. Anderson was a big impact, but Jason Holt really came into the game. And, even like after they equalised, so they get the equaliser. By that point, they brought in Guthrie as well. So they had taken off Jamie Brandon for Guthrie. Guthrie gets a header in the build-up to the goal. Yengi then cuts it back for Anderson, who finishes. But that meant that they were playing Dan Mackay at right back. Now they had the option there. They still had one sub to make, and they had Montano and Mikey Devlin on the bench. Now, maybe not a good idea to bring on Mikey Devlin, but they've got a lot of attacking players in the team. But Martindale instead thought, no, let's go for it. Let's go and try to get the victory. And do you know what? Like after the goal, the way that the game panned out until County scored, it's only 5 minutes, but Livingston looked the team more likely to get a winner than County did. And I don't actually think, and Martindale said himself, maybe we should have brought on more kind of defensive personnel and readdressed the balance of the team. But with a winning goal, it's actually the more defensive players that really let them down.
As well as that, like Livingston aren't in a position where they can draw their way. They can't draw their way to safety. Or like a draw does them absolutely no favour. Ultimately, a loss does them absolutely no favours either. But they have to go and start winning games. And like I said, the way in which Martindale changed it at half time as well to switch out like what was quite a boxy sort of 3 behind Yengi and Kelly, Shinnie and Newbley, and then really stretched the game out in the second half massively. And just with Anderson and Mackay, just and Newbley on the other side, Mackay on one side and Newbley on the other, just stretching the game. And that's what I was kind of getting at when I was talking about Don Cowie. Like County were like a really compact, they looked well put together, but the game had changed from the first half to the second half, and Cowie just didn't really react at any point to that. It wasn't a case of, right, well, they've done that, so we need to counter that, we need to look at that. It was just a case of, let's just hope for the best within that as well. And again, that's if Livingston are going to go win games, which they need to do, the next two fixtures are winnable fixtures. They are defences which are weak. They are games that they're teams that don't necessarily maybe take advantage of defensive mistakes in the same way that better teams do. So opportunities there, and maybe just from the off, just go for it rather than try and be compact and try and hold the game to a degree, go and win the games, and maybe that's just a bit easier.
Was Danda injured, Fowler?
Yes, he wasn't. Well, as far as I'm aware, either injured or suspended. He wasn't quoted anywhere at all.
Because I see when I first saw the sort of Brophy, Murray, and White, it kind of struck me as quite a sort of like FIFA thing that you do. Just try and
It worked really well.
No, that's exactly.
Danda's not been in good form recently.
Yeah, because at first you're thinking it's just three centre forwards. That's what they are, centre forwards that are all playing, and it's sometimes on them. Yes, when I'm playing a computer game, I just use their sort of attributes on there to suit me. But in real football, that isn't always what comes to fruition. People are uncomfortable. People are forced to do different things that they don't really want to do. But but when you see the goals, and like you were saying earlier, but seeing Simon Murray picking up the ball really, really deep, which normally in your head you're thinking doesn't sound like a great thing. I really want Murray to be hurtling people down and trying to get in behind people. But his pass for Brophy's second goals, it's a really nice goal in general, and he roofs the net, and it was like a bit of quality. And White's involved, in he sets up the winner for Sims as well in there. So it did that, and Brophy obviously scored 2 goals, and I was thinking Brophy is kind of like a wide player, a guy who shoots all the time. That could get fucking annoying if you're the centre forward. The wide player. But it seemed to work. There did seem to be a bit of balance, and I don't know if I'm believing that it's Cowie called that or is Cowie just got lucky.
It did look like a tactic that getting Simon Murray into the space, and Livy really kind of had no answer for that. Second half, they did kind of get a grip to it, but Murray was still good in terms of doing what you would expect Murray to do normally, which was stretching them in behind. And he was tormenting them down that County's left-hand side, Livy's right-hand side. But just before we move on, I was going to finish the point about the winning goal, because Martindale did wonder himself whether he made the mistake. But it is their defensive players that let them down at that winning goal. Carson overcommits. He's a defensive midfielder. That's why he's been signed. He's been there to add a bit of solidity in front of the back four. He overcommits, trying to stop Sheaf. Sheaf manages to wriggle away. And then Obalai dives in for no real reason. And that leaves them short on the right-hand side. Yes, it is Dan Mackay going up against Josh Sims. And if you've got Michael Nottingham there, he might do better at trying to block that. But it's also just a very nice finish as well. So they were kind of unlucky. This was a really good game. I really enjoyed watching this.
Yep.
County were very good to watch in the first half. Livy were still a bit direct, but a lot better to watch in the second half. And 5 goals in a last, an injury time winner. What more could he ask for? Right, let's move on.
Direct Livy's what you want, though. That's what we want. That's what they're good at, and what they've always sort of been able to do, and always playing their football in and around the penalty box. So that's good. It's good to hear.
Right, let's move on to our first feature, which this week is literally on fire. This is where we look at a Scottish Premiership player who's having a particularly good time of it at this moment. Tony, we go to you, an Easter Road, and a January signing who is not Mark Ordez, who is having a whale of a time right now.
Oh, man. Myziane Maolida, the chairman Mao. Some laddie.
Ready for his great leap forward.
Hey.
I'm totally head over heels for this guy. I mean, the first few weeks, it took him a bit to get going. He wasn't great when he was chucked in for his debut against Rangers, but since then he started to get more and more starts. He's played both up front and wide, and he's starting to show that it doesn't even matter whether we use him as a centre forward or as a left winger. He has just as big an impact. But this was, last week against Aberdeen, everyone was obviously really impressed with the assist and how he held onto the ball and played it wide. Obviously scored that great goal against Kilmarnock when he first came off the bench. But this game was the next level, where he was like running the show, and Hibs were getting him the ball constantly. He gave Shaughnessy an absolute torrid time. And it's just one of those games. It's one of those players where the game just completely slows down around him. Everyone else is just running around him, and he's just going completely at his own pace. He never looks flustered. He's so calm on the ball, and he likes to twist and turn. He'll never let anyone rush him, and he makes the spot on decisions when differently from like Myziane, for example. Like Maolida knows when to release the ball, and he knows when to do a skill. And then now, like as you see with the goal, he scored 3 goals now from the 5 starts. Yeah, the Inverness one was a deflected effort, but the other 2, these are top quality goals. They're not laid on a plate for him. He's making that happen for him. I mean, the second goal for Hibs is a really, really good goal. The whole move, obviously, ball into Marcondes, who has a really, really smart header down to Dylan Venti, who then plays a really cool ball. But it's still loads and loads and loads to do when he gets in there, and he does it like so calmly. It doesn't look like he's even remotely bothered, and his composure levels for the rest of the season is something very new for Hibs fans. Because as I said, Myziane's absolutely. I'm a big Myziane fan, but he's explosive and he's wild.
So I'm just loving you the idea of like a winger or attacking player at Hibs having composure is a new thing for Hibs fans. Like, yeah. I'm not going to argue with that at all. You're absolutely banging the money.
So just to see that and yeah, he's got like one of those just the gravitational pull towards him, and he's just making everyone else around him better. Maolida, I am absolutely smitten for this guy. So hopefully he produces on Wednesday night at Tynecastle and becomes a real hero at Easter Road. But I'm assuming, I don't know what the chances are of him being able to be kept. I have no idea. I'm assuming he's on silly Billy money at Werder Bremen. So I don't know the plan, but I'm sure that people will be watching him now because he's really been excellent since he's come into Hibs.
Was it not Hertha Berlin?
Hertha Berlin, yeah. Sorry, not Werder. One of the Bremens.
Yeah, we'll get to it later on, but after Natty Atkinson's performance on Saturday and Dexter Lembekisa's performance the previous week, I'm now very worried about Hearts' right-sided defender going up against this man. Because the thing, as I watched these clips on Y-Scout, just anything he done in the game, and I think one of the most impressive things about him is his ability to go inside and out and just seems very comfortable on either foot. So that was what was bamboozling the Dundee defenders the most, is that you didn't know. He wasn't just one of those guys where it's like, well, he's definitely going to come inside. Just don't show him inside. And then you'll be fine, because he doesn't want to do the opposite. He looked very happy to either go on the outside or go on the inside, use his left foot, use his right foot, have a shot, have a cross. He didn't know what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And if he can keep that up, then he's just going to be a nightmare for defenders to play against. And also, when he was signed, there was the previous knock on him that his former manager had said he was one of the laziest players he'd ever seen. Well, it looks like he's had a kick up the arse. He doesn't look lazy when he plays for Hibs.
Who fucking cares? Like, you can quite genuinely sit on Y-Scout and just watch his attack and Jules page over and over again. It goes on for fucking ages. And again, like you say, it's not just whether he's going inside or outside with it as well. It's the pace at which he does things as well. Like Tony said, he doesn't allow himself to be rushed. If he's running, that's because he's very consciously making a choice to run. If he's going to stop, he's just going to stop. He's going to slow things down. He's going to then slow the game down and then pick up the pace again. Like, he's great value absolutely great value to watch more than anything else. Like, he's absolutely brilliant. He's
the game's completely played on his terms.
Yeah.
At all times when he's playing, and like with Hibs, like tactically, it's with Obita. Obviously, Obita's like a really strong runner, and he's athletic, so he's able to stretch the game and get right out wide. And this is where Dundee had real problems, because when he would do that, and you're just saying Maolida was happy to come inside, so the Dundee, and if they didn't do it, then Hibs would be able to just play the ball down to Obita, who's in an attacking place, to do that. And if one of the midfielders has to come inside to try and help out in that left Marcondes free in the centre, and Marcondes had a really good game. And Marcondes had loads and loads of like sexy little touches. He didn't have quite the same impact as like Maolida, but it's all little black heels and flicks, but they actually come off. and now when looking at it now since he's recently started to play a bit more, he's pretty much involved strongly in every single goal Hibs score. So I mean, like even at Inverness, he came off the bench. It's his through ball to Boyle, who cuts it back for Myziane to score. He obviously scored a goal when he came off the bench against Aberdeen. And then in this game, he wins the penalty, which we'll come on to in a second.
Let's not, you're not saying he wins the penalty, Tony. Come on.
he wins the penalty, man.
There's winning penalties. There's winning penalties and there's getting penalties. Yeah. This was getting a penalty. This is not winning a penalty. These are different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. And then it's his header for Venti to pass to Maolida. So in terms of the game as a whole, that was the most controlled performance Hibs have had in a long time. They basically dominated the game from start to finish and never looked in any real trouble. It wasn't until after the 70th minute, really, just after Venti's sort of disallowed offside goal, which is the annoying thing about VAR as well, is that stuff that you lose a goal, but you also lose the momentum. It swings to their team. They get happy because they go back to take the centre. So they've accepted they've lost a goal. So when that goal gets taken away after that, it's like a celebration in the away end or whoever gets that. And that really, it's almost like a feeling like a goal's been scored. And then you can see the momentum swung there. And Dundee finally put some pressure on Hibs. And Luke McCowan with a really smart strike. McCowan's really becoming like a real player now. He's not just a highlights reel player. He's really impacts a lot of games in a lot of way, and he scores a lot of big goals. And that's not an easy goal. He's scoring for outside the box again, and it's a really sweet finish. But Dundee were as poor as I've seen them in games this season, because normally when you watch Dundee, they normally play well. That's something that I normally notice, that they play well. They don't always win, and they've got deficiencies, but they normally play really, really well. So they'll be disappointed. That was one of their worst performances. But finally for Hibs, 4-2-3-1, it pretty much looked like to me. So all those things that Montgomery done for about 20 games, he's went back on. So it was all just a giant waste of time.
So let's get to the first goal, the penalty. Trevor Carson. I mean, Trevor Carson otherwise had a decent game. It was maybe Dundee's best player, but you can't really... Only you'd say he's his best player if you take this out of it, because it's just such an absolute shocker. Should claim the initial cross and then just gets himself in a complete fankle.
So you know what? See, even after claiming if he fucks the initial cross, see, even if he just gets like a good punch on the ball rather than trying to scoop it like he does, even if he just gets a leather on the ball away and then just retreats to his line, fine. It's just one of those like full-on Russia blood to the head. It's absolutely brilliant to watch, because I hadn't seen it until I was watching the highlights, and then everyone said this is an absolute disaster, and I was like, I can't wait to see what this is going to be. And I genuinely assumed he just hold somebody down when they were running in on goal or something like that. No. Incredible, truly incredible, great moment.
It's like he's wearing ice skates, and then he just flat, and it's like he's at a roller disco, and he's also trying to hold dinner.
The Russian judges are showing 10.
It's like a proper slapstick scene from like a comedy movie, where it's like somebody like makes an arse or something and then tries to correct it, just makes things so much worse.
Yeah. You just put on in the background while he's running about, and then eventually he just kicks Marcondes. I thought there was a second where he was going to try and claim it wasn't a penalty. And then
he does. He puts his hand, he points directly to where the ball has gone. Which, to be fair, right, he's probably got something on it, but he's also got his fucking full foot onto Marcondes. So I suspect I know which one will be taken into account more.
Then he just instantly turns back, and you see him shaking his head. The acceptance of, oh fuck, man.
Yeah, you see him looking to the heavens like, Jesus, I've been a complete arse of that. Right, let's move on to another two games to cover. Both of them involve the two teams going for the title.
I was just going to say, I only had one other thing to add to that, the last one. Sorry to cut across your link entirely. I just had one other thing to say to this game. Do you know when you go on a stag do for like 2 days, 3 days, and then you get back, right, and then you just fucking sleep for like 12 hours, 14 hours, and you don't stir, and you just wake up? I reckon that's Joe Shaughnessy this morning, because fucking hell, like Joe Shaughnessy said this game, every single time the ball is anywhere near him, or any single bit of the clips, any bit of the highlights, any bit of the game I watch, it's him like doing that Davy Weir thing of running completely the wrong direction, looking the wrong way. He looks like he's had the biggest sleep of his life that night.
Just for cutting across my link there, Graeme, we're going to go to you now to talk about Motherwell being defeated 2-1 by Celtic. This was a huge win for Celtic. Rangers laid in a marker yesterday, go 5 points clear with a 5-0 victory over Hearts. Celtic needed to respond. The first half, they certainly didn't. Motherwell were 1-0 up. Better team in the first half, I think it's very fair to say. Celtic do knuckle down the second half, helped by the fact that Adam Eder came off the bench to make Ewan Taylor look very foolish because he wins the game with certainly one nice finish, and you could probably say two decent finishes to eventually get Celtic all 3 points. But Graeme, case of deja vu in Lanarkshire, wasn't it?
That's just the same thing. Like, it's just this fucking Motherwell team, man. Like, I feel it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because there's big chunks of this Motherwell team that are genuinely like, you're watching the game like, quite like this. Quite like there's a lot to like about it, and you keep there's a like as much as I grew. I think watching Graeme Alexander's Motherwell was the least fun I've ever had watching Motherwell. It was just miserable every single week. There was nothing from it that you went, that was quite good. I enjoyed that. Nothing from it. So little from it. Hamill's Motherwell, similarly bad, but it wasn't quite as much of a grind to do it because we were just such a fucking shambles clown car. So yeah, it wasn't. But this team, right? Every single there's very few games this season that we've turned up or we've played in, and we've just offered nothing. There's been a couple, granted, but like this game as well, like there was so much, and like you said, the first half performance was so good. The performances are kind of all over the park. I thought Miller was superb in the first half. Dravkovsky consistently performs as well. Vale looks like he's got a real something about us as well. Theo Bair is one of the funniest things of the entire season. Like, without question, is an incredibly funny story of us picking up a guy that nobody wanted simply just to have an extra body around, who then suddenly turns out like fucking prime Ronaldo at various points during the season as well. And the majority of our goals come through from him just doing the same thing over and over again because he's a big fit laddie. It just makes the same fucking run every time. His goal that was chalked off is exactly that. Over and over again, just makes that run. And Miller or Spittle or Dravkovsky just find him because he just keeps making. There's fuck all he can do about it.
You're saying Ronaldo, but yeah, the check-in with the back heel was exactly prime Cristiano Ronaldo. That's exactly what Ronaldo used to do as a winger all the time.
And absolute nonsense in doing it, and and it's not. There's nothing particularly fancy, nothing particularly clever. He just makes the same run over and over again, and nobody's figured out how to defend it. It's brilliant. Absolutely love it.
I was hungover as shit this morning when I was watching, so I'd only just peeled myself.
Just getting emotional watching it.
Yeah. When I went through and I managed to, and I got myself too into it at the point, and I sort of like, oh fuck, I've hurt myself a little bit. I got too I was just lying there, and I was, oh. And then it got chopped up. I was absolutely fucking devastated, nearly crying.
Yeah. And again, like the development of somebody like Georgie Gent as well. Like, there's so much to like about this team, and then there's like, I would say probably 3 of the back 4 that I just cannot fucking abide. Like, it's just this because we just concede the same we conceded the same fucking goal again today that we conceded last week against Hearts. So a big centre forward peeling in between Mugabe and Casey, and neither of them dealing with it, and neither of them taking responsibility. And that's the end of the game, ultimately. If Motherwell had hung on till an hour, 65 minutes into the game, you could see them getting something out of it. It's like the Livy County game as well. Getting that goal directly after half-time just kills any momentum. And at that point, it felt like, by half-time, it felt like the Celtic supporter, they were properly getting on the players' backs. You come straight out after half-time, let's get started again. And all you need to do is hold on to another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then get them up against it. And as soon as that went, I was like, I might actually just turn it off because I've seen this before. Like, I know how this I've seen how this plays out. I know exactly what happens here. And the fact that it was, as I say, exactly the same goal from the opposite side this week to last week as well. Like, I have a degree of sympathy for Stuart Kettlewell, in that I don't think the majority of the defenders that aren't named McGinn we have are very good.
Well, I was going to say that because I did question the wisdom, because you mentioned Casey for the goal. I questioned the wisdom of keeping on a player who's clearly just kind of tweaked his hamstring, and he was fine enough to soldier on, but you do wonder how that's affected him. And then Callum Butcher comes on instead, and you're like, yeah, that's why you don't make the change when your defender's tweaked his hamstring.
Like, and again, Butcher has been better of late. He had an absolute shock at the start of the season and looked closer to what he had been last year. This was not the game for him because at no point did he get up to speed, and he doesn't do that. He can't get up to. He was never going to get up to the speed of the game as it was at that point, because it was at that point more or less one-way traffic, and he was just never going to get himself up to speed. Blaney as well, like, fair play to him. He's had a rough time in terms of coming in and out of the team and not really getting a consistent run, but I suspect there might be a reason for that. And again, for the second goal as well, I don't know where he's going. Like, he's just standing within the 18-yard box, oblivious to Johnsone, who is a very good crosser of the ball, standing within touch distance of him as well. I was annoyed at Butcher letting Ida run across him, but ultimately Blaney sleeping and letting Johnsone in behind him is where that mistake comes from. It's the same goal. We can see the same goal every single week. We can see the same goal every week. It's the same levels of stupid games, the same level of stupid goals and preventable goals. If you lose to Celtic to a series of stunning goals or stunning strikes or wonderful play, then fine, fair enough. Again, it's another game which has slipped past us where we should at the bare minimum have had a point out of, but don't, because we concede bad goals because our centre-halves don't know how to defend properly.
See, just for the Celtic point of view, I think just you mentioned Alistair Johnsone there. I know not everyone's favourite vibesman, Alistair Johnsone, but
I love the mask. The mask. He looked like he was a Wayne going to a birthday party.
He was, but I thought he was the one who sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck for Celtic. I thought he took quite a lot of responsibility in the second half, and he was sort of demanding the ball a lot. He put in a lot of running, and for his manager, and then obviously they brought on Yang, so they two seemed to link up really quite well out on the right hand side for Celtic, and then Adam Ida, who's obviously I know he scored the 2 penalties at Hibs, but he's had a poor start. Let's be frank. The games that he played in there, and this is, you would say, his arrival. And the first one is a goal that I really like. They know the big towering header, Andy Carroll type thing, where because he's just so big and he gets across his man, and it's like a flashing header, and he's towering so high above him when by the time that he connects it. It's such a high cross for Taylor that he just can't be challenged because he's too big and he gets up too well and too early, and it's a really tidy finish from the second one. And you mentioned the game turns massively on Ida coming on and Butcher having to come on up against him, and it was interesting when Colum turned down that the VAR was trying to get him red carded. Butcher, shut the fuck up, VAR. Who's in there? Why are you getting involved? Like, nobody's looking for that whatsoever. And thank God for Colin. I would have liked to. You want to hear the Colin when he goes over.
Clip that, Craig. Can we just clip that? Just the thank God for Colin. We'll just file that out every single time.
That's a nice TikTok video. Just that with a dance beat. Thank God for Colin.
Because Colin just goes over, and I would like to hear the audio at that point. Why the fuck have you got me over for this? So I was pleased to do it because there was nothing. It was just a foul that he rolled him, and it's a foul that happens all the time when the defenders are coming over to try and block a shot. But Rodgers needed that because, as we saw with some of his chat with Jane Lewis,
he
was a man under pressure.
He was very prickly pre-match with Jane Lewis as well, because I was in the car and listening to that on the way through to drop my pick up Myziane, and they were just he said, I can't remember what it was. He was just like, I didn't say that. I'm like, okay, but you did say that Celtic needed to be more focusing on themselves. That's what you said. I didn't say that. Oh, okay. Fair play to Jane Lewis again. She just sort of shrugged it off and continued with it, and then again post match asked a question about something that he had literally just said to her. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. Like, what the fuck was he doing? Absolutely grow up, man.
She came out of that really well. And the fact that she
did absolutely the right thing. Like, again, just you're a journalist, you later ask questions of the Celtic manager. Like, neither of them were particularly challenging questions, both of which he just comes out looking like a bellend.
And I thought that when she didn't back down when he kept on saying it, and she repeated, no, but I don't actually think, I am sure what you're alluding to, and I think the Celtic fans, now that you've made this statement that you just said, we would want to hear. And that is absolutely true. Like me, I was like, yes, managers can't just say whatever they want and then not think that, well, you've set us down a path. You've set us down a path. And now he shot himself because he knew he was going to get the things that he didn't want to say. And then then we get to the good girl. And that will send shivers down my spine for all of eternity. Oh, it was absolutely vile.
Not good. Just while we're talking vile as well, can we just talk about the one thing that's going to keep me warm throughout the rest of the year, which is Lennon Miller sending Callum McGregor into a separate dimension. That was quite something. That was quite something. It was like when you're come up against somebody skill levels above you on FIFA, and you just try to tackle people, and the AI is far too slow to catch past it. Yeah, that was Lennon Miller. How about that?
Because he's looked really good. This isn't the first time. Yeah. Obviously, before his injury, he was looking good. And basically, a lot of the chat I remember having with you, Graeme, earlier in the season was about like we just feel like we need to keep using him, even though we know that you're meant to rest these young guys, and but it's really hard not to because he's the best player. But it's a real. But it still feels like a bit of a coming of age moment for a young 17-year-old Scottish player to do that to Callum McGregor, who's sort of like the king of Scottish football. Sort of like what Scott Brown was before. Callum McGregor's that now.
It's the passing of the torch, Tony. That's exactly what happened in that moment.
And then in Spittle with a gorgeous finish, who's had Graeme, you'll understand. You'll both understand this. How annoying is it when you've got a player who gets that good, and you're like, I always dream like, well, imagine we had. Why couldn't we have had that when we still had like David Turnbull? Or players like that, or when we had like the good strikers, when the rest of your team, you're like, why can't we have that? It's so annoying when you've only got like a really good player who's playing to like their potential, but they're just doing it in sort of like a bang average team. So all that achieves is like seventh.
Seventh will be a fucking achievement for us, Tony.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, going from something that's going to keep Graeme warm for millennia to something that will keep me cold for at least 48 hours. And that is Hearts getting absolutely annihilated at Ibrox. The silver lining of this is that at least it'll keep the idiots quiet about, can Hearts get close to the old firm? Nope. It was a stupid thing to say then. It's a stupid thing to say now.
Joel? That was Joel. That was Joel that said that.
And Joel's still saying it.
And it was proven at Ibrox on Saturday. Hearts just conceding 1-0 down within a couple of minutes, 3 goals down before half-time. 4 goals down very soon in the second half, and in the end, probably fortunate that it was only 5. Strange thing is, I think I've definitely seen Hearts play worse at Ibrox in recent years and not get beat 5-0. Hearts weren't good by any means, I must say. Defending was shoddy. Kai Rolls was awful in the first half and was taken off at half-time. Natty Atkinson was absolutely terrible. I don't think the formation helped him at all because he was out at right wing back and he was going against Yilmaz and Cortez, both of whom had very good games. However, I have looked at the second goal many, many times, and if somebody could tell me where Natty Atkinson actually is on the pitch at the moment the ball goes in the back of it, I would really appreciate it because I have got no fucking idea. And Hearts and going forward as well, there was some not bad play in midfield, but when the ball got forward, it was usually the pass before the final ball was just too poor, and Hearts weren't ever really able to kind of create anything of themselves. But it has to be said, Rangers were very impressive. And this is a Rangers team that, having now got to the summit of the league, hadn't looked like it was done and dusted. The title was going back to Celtic. Like, you thought that in December, then Celtic dropped some points, and then the Old Firm game was a huge game. Celtic win that. And just like, well, that's it. But now Rangers go top, and you can see with the momentum that they had, the confidence brimming through the side, that they were just a team with real swagger. And in the second half, especially when they were still going for more goals, the kind of easy comparison to make was Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. And it's interesting now going forward because there's still a lot of time left. And we thought not long ago that Celtic were definitely still going to be champions, and now Rangers have come from nowhere to be top. And if Celtic get Hatate back in 3 weeks, if they manage to hold on to this slender disadvantage at the moment and don't let it get any bigger, Hatate comes back, that will improve Celtic. And we could end up with a very interesting title race. But for the time being, all the momentum is certainly with the Ibrox side, Tony.
And you're talking about swagger. And just that, I think a John Lundstrom no-look through ball pass for Fabio Silva to drill in a a fifth goal sort of epitomises exactly that. And John Lundstrom in general, sort of, he's had a really, really good season, and he seemed to be quite a go-to guy for Clermont. Clermont seems to really like him, and sometimes you watch Lundstrom, he properly runs the show. I mean, he had Easter Road when they won 3-0. I watched all that game, and I was annoyed because nobody got within 20 yards of Lundstrom for 90 minutes, and he was totally running the show. But when Lundstrom's on it, he's really good because he's really combative, he's fit, and he's all action. He can get round the pitch, and he has the quality to play really nice long passing, and he's got technique. You can see that in his shooting ability and stuff. So like, his Rangers' career's been wildly up and down. He's on really big highs. Like, I mean, the Europa League run, I remember he was superb in loads of the games, but he's had some like honking seasons, like where he under this. So yeah, he's really, really come back, and it looked like Tom Lawrence, he might be the beneficiary of the fact that Todd Cantwell's out for 4 weeks, because Lawrence now gets to play probably in the position that he wants to play. And I didn't watch this game, but my dad is a big Jambo, and he was raving about Lawrence last night when I saw him. So, and then you've got Diomande, who you were talking about last week. He certainly looks like the absolute real deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's another excellent finish, and there were some good Rangers finishes in this game, and like Silva's goals, Clark can maybe do a bit better, but it's still a good finish. Cortez one, obviously, as well. Defending, again, could be better, but it's a nice one, just fired right into the corner. And yeah, there's not really much else to say from Hearts' perspective. It's like, you need to go, you need to be better than, you need to defend better than that, but you also need a bit of luck. You need Rangers to miss chances and when Rangers are firing and great strikes from outside the box within 3 minutes of the game, it's really like what you're like, kind of like, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go,
yeah, we know exactly where
this isn't going to be our day of the day, is it?
And then Desser's at the double, and now he's got 16 goals this season. So I mean, not beyond the realms of possibility that he's kicking into like the mid-20s by the end of the season, which I don't think anyone would have been putting the money on maybe 2 months ago of that.
Is this the opportunity for Naismith to drop Clark?
Oh, that is a very, very, very good question.
Because I've kind of just assumed that the first time that Clark makes a mistake, then thanks very much, but Daddy's home.
Yeah, well, like the way that Hearts are talking,
Daddy's old though, isn't he?
Yes.
The chat coming out of Hearts is that Craig Gordon is not really, incredibly, he's not really lost anything by being out injured. And if that is the case, if he's not actually any worse than he was,
he must be playing then. He's your best player.
Yeah.
if he's not lost it, then he has to be playing. Simple as that.
Second best player, Tony. Second best player.
Fuck, he's going to play in the derby, Tony.
Yeah. And I'm already getting it. It's a fucking all-timer performance already. Aye. Craig Gordon is back. See, you were getting worried when I was talking about Maolida and that, and now the roles have been reversed here, Fowler.
It'll probably say a lot, because we did wonder whether Gordon getting the Scottish Cup games was just kind of like, oh, here's some loyalty points back, kind of thing for your career and for being a legend and et cetera, et cetera. But you did wonder, is like, does that mean that they just think he's good enough to, and it's just kind of keeping him warm for Clark to eventually be moved out? Because you can't move Clark out of the team now, because he's been playing well. Hearts been keeping count, like loads of clean sheets and winning loads of games. So now is this the time? Does he now come back in? Yeah, be very interesting. I think Wednesday will probably tell us one way or another what Gordon is. Is he now the backup to Clark, or was he the number one in waiting? Because if he is the number one in waiting, it probably will happen now.
It's just funny because he won't just lose his Hearts place to Gordon. He also just loses his Scotland place.
No, he won't. It'll be fine. They were on the radio. They were explaining that the Scotland goalkeeping coach was there to watch Liam Kelly today. So as long as they're keeping tabs on him, there's no fucking chance he's going.
It'd be very funny if there's 3 Hearts players in the Euro 2024 squad.
Yeah, the 2 backup goalies. The swindling your way in. You make loads of money out of that as well, because you get money for your players playing at the Europe. Hearts providing 2 guys who don't play 1 minute.
Apparently, by all accounts, I read something saying that Liam Kelly had extended his Motherwell contract by a month, so that were he to go to the Euros, Motherwell would get that money. Which, good fucking luck.
What a sweetheart. Probably prefer him to stop conceding Raj goals all the time.
Yeah.
Instead.
That would be my preference. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd take no money to just not have to watch him concede terrible goals. Yeah.
Right, let's move on to He Said, She Said. So this week we're looking at not necessarily the comments made by Aberdeen boss Neil Warnock after his side's 2-0 defeat to Rugby Park, and more about the manner in which he kind of speaks about his team. Because after the game, so I watched the interview done with Red TV. So he's talking about Aberdeen having a lack of fight, a lack of leaders in the dressing room, and there being a big job coming for them this summer in terms of building the team up again, and how they're struggle against teams like Kilmarnock. If I was an Aberdeen fan, I'd be a bit concerned that he seems to be like, what he said isn't necessarily wrong, but the way he's talking about it like he's a passive observer in all of this, like he is an analyst that's been paid to comment on the match. And he's making his wee quips and he's having a laugh. He's just having a good time. Is he really tuned into the seriousness of this situation? Because if Aberdeen play like this from now until the end of the season, if St Johnstone and County get their act together, they're an absolutely serious bother at the bottom of the table.
Fucking hell. Imagine them getting relegated with Neil Warnock as manager. Honestly, he'd be partying all night. That'd be absolutely great.
Which one of us fucking said so? Who said that? Which one of us said, is anyone concerned Neil Warnock is going to come up here, basically treat it like he's on a big fucking extended Butlins break and make an absolute dick of this? That would be me. That would be me. It was me that fucking said that. And that's exactly what's fucking happening here. Like, this is... If I'm an Aberdeen fan, I am... If there is... Again, right, this is Twitter stuff, I don't know. If it is the case that Neil Warnock spent like 5 days last week in Cornwall, the players were fucking given like 4 days holiday. There was a time, you'll remember this, Tony. You remember this? It was like it was Maurice Malpass was Motherwell manager, and Hibs came to Easter Road and I think put 6 past Motherwell, and genuinely it looked like men and boys stuff, like one of those ones where it's like the pre-season where it's like Bayern Munich against TSV made up German team, like whatever, and they beat them 25-0 because they're Bayern Munich, whatever. It genuinely looked like that, and then it latterly came out that Malpass had given the players basically the entire week rather than except the day before off to come and train, and understandably, and this is exactly how this game played out. Aberdeen were second best to absolutely everything in this game from the first minute to the last, simply because Kilmarnock wanted it more than Aberdeen. If I'm an Aberdeen fan, I am fucking shitting myself right now, because they are in absolute freefall. They are a nightmare. They are bad, and they're not even trying. Like, this is the... If they've chucked it, how are you going to turn this round if you're Neil Warnock? How are you going to then get these guys on? I gave you 4 days off last week and we didn't win, so this week we're going to train a bit, lads. Fuck this guy, man. Like, honestly, this is going to go so badly.
I'm just imagining that the players turned up for training last week and I was like, oh no, he's not here. What? So we're off then? Why did the assistant do the work? I don't understand.
We don't know this is actually true, do we? To be fair.
I'm peddling it, Fowler. Okay, and that is my fucking right. I loved it when I saw that on Twitter. I absolutely loved it. That'll be a screenshot right away. That's dropping into every group chat I have, and that is gospel as far as I'm concerned. Because he was referring to Aberdeen as, I think the word he used was pathetic. Is that the word? But again, it's like if his heart's not in it the same way, because obviously Warnock's famed for straight talking, blah blah blah, and all the videos you see is him going through people. But if he's got no jeopardy and he's just like botting about it, I'm assuming that's not happening when he's a 75-year-old man, and there's now nothing for anyone to lose because the players know he's not going to be there next season, and he's not like really, he doesn't look like he's totally bothered. He's having a bit of a laugh, so they've no jeopardy about next season for playing under Warnock, and there's no jeopardy for Warnock. It's just a team where nobody's got anything on the line. And then when he's playing with like Kilmarnock and St Mirren, and you'll see this with St Mirren with the St Johnstone game when we come on to talk to that. They're the teams that you have to earn everything you get about it. They're the most reliable, like Hearts as well, obviously, but they're the most reliable teams in the league in terms of if you make mistakes, if you do not play well, you will be punished by them, and they don't make shitloads of mistakes themselves. You know, like they win games 2-0, and they don't always have to play ridiculously well, but they're well drilled. They're sort of machine-like teams. And that Kilmarnock game, that's just exactly what happened. They were just running harder. They just had a bit of quality for Kennedy and Armstrong's crosses. They know exactly how they play. Kilmarnock, they know exactly what their identity is. They know exactly what they're going to be doing. So you don't fucking train. Again, I'm peddling it again. then you're absolutely going to get punished. But fair play to Kilmarnock. I thought they looked really good, and they still, like, even Van Veen's wasn't even playing there, and that's obviously like a big January sign-in. So, and they're still brought down, and like they could have scored more. Watson, I really like to look at Watson now, how often he gets in the box, and you saw it in this game, and so adding so much to his game. And it was pretty much a certainty. Kilmarnock, it felt like Kilmarnock were definitely going to win this. They're definitely going to win this game before it started.
I didn't see the whole thing coming with Warnock because because he'd already retired, and then he came out of retirement to manage Huddersfield. And done a very good job and kept him up. So I thought, well, when he's in the job, he clearly, and like when he was first coming up and he was talking about, and you did wonder like whether he was having a laugh, but he's like, well, that's been Warnock's personality kind of for a lot of his career, that he's either kind of very serious or he tends to have a joke. And then also as well, the fact that he's routinely through the years could have talked up Scottish football, so he could have thought, well, at least he's got some respect for this league. So he's not somebody coming up and being like,
until he's fucking manager.
I was going to say, he didn't give me somebody like treating it like a piece of piss. But yeah, he does just seem like he's up here for a jolly, just to collect some money between now and the end of the season. Because
I thought it was like I understood the mindset of like it was almost like the safest pair of hands Aberdeen could get. If you know what I mean, like in terms of like his CV, what he does, and that buys him time to what is a big appointment, because similarly to like Hibs, Aberdeen have got a string of bad managerial appointments. None of them have went particularly. Robson was sort of like forced upon them because he done well where he was an intern. So I just don't know where they. So but then Warnock guy, it totally feels like it's just going to nosedive now, and they weren't doing particularly well anyway. So if we add this in, like Graeme's saying, it could be very dangerous. It's a dangerous thing because they weren't doing particularly well anyway. And I know, like, I was laughing when I was watching the boys on A View for the Terrace the other, like on Friday night, when they were just treating it like a safari. Like Rob was saying, like a Scottish football safari. And it's just what a situation. It's just like brilliant. I love it. Just like, again, it's not my team, so fucking great.
As much as genuinely, when it falls into the bottom six, Motherwell are going to finish in the bottom six. I genuinely think we'll do pretty well there. Like, the team is just about at the point where everyone has figured out their roles. It's taken an entire fucking season to get there. So I go into that anticipating Motherwell to win, I would say, the majority of the games that we'll play. Aberdeen, if they end up in the bottom six, are coming up against a bunch of teams that are scrapping for their life with a manager who ultimately does not give a shit. I think they are in big trouble. I think they're in really, really big trouble, because if this doesn't go right, if things continue along the way that they have, with a manager that's half-arsing it, who's underpreparing the players, a bunch of players who are now looking over their shoulder going, I'm going to be out here in the summer. If you're Majowski, he does not give a shit if they go up or down, because if they go down, he gets more money in his pocket, ultimately, out of any transfer deal, because more money will come to him than will go to the club, so he's not going to fucking be the slightest bit arsed. Like, if they need to come up against
Aberdeen got relegated.
If they need to come up against Ross County, St Johnstone, Motherwell, Dundee or Hibs, whatever, teams who are genuinely, whoever's in seventh will probably be safe regardless. Everyone else within that bottom six is going to be scrapping for survival. Particularly, so they got Motherwell after the first game, and Motherwell need 3 points to stay up, and that's them safe. Motherwell will fucking win that game. Like, they are. I think they are in big trouble, and I don't know how they get out of that situation, because their centre halves are bad. Their striker is Majowski, and if he isn't going to score, then they will not score. They're a mess.
Yeah, and just before we move on, just to kind of briefly talk about this game, because you were right in terms of identifying the centre halves. We've said it already; they're both too soft. Kyle Vassell had his best game for Kelly in ages because he just dominated the pair of them physically. You had guys like Matty Kennedy, probably maybe the man of the match for Killie. I loved his celebration. Just like, none of this. I used to play for Aberdeen. Let me be respectful. Arms wide to the away fans.
Again, I'm asking Kilmarnock, let the away fans in the bottom tier. Because there's just for these scenes that we want to see.
And him and Watkins were both right up for the start. A lot of kind of running with the ball at the Aberdeen defenders. Didn't really know how to deal with it. Devlin had a torrid time off of Kennedy. In the middle of the park, Donnelly and Polworth had another good game. They did have a period in the second half where they started to tire and they started to lose a bit of that control, but that was when Watson then came on for Vassell and they went to a three-man midfield and that just corrected it, and Aberdeen didn't really do anything again after that. And the only other thing to touch on was that they put Mayo to centre-back this time and Joe Wright to right-back and used him in a lot of diagonal balls. And Wright's very good at attacking the ball in the air, particularly when he's on the offensive. So that was something that had Aberdeen on the back foot a lot as well. So yeah, just all throughout the team, very good performances from Aberdeen. From Killie.
Can I mention my favourite bit of the game, which was a Kyle, just before the second goal, which was basically a 5-on-1 with Kyle Vassell, who then came out with the ball without even actually having to try that hard for it as well. That was my highlight of the game.
Just like for Derek McInnes, that's a satisfying as fuck win. And then when you've got like what Aberdeen fans would probably say rejects like Kennedy and Watkins, they are both playing brilliant. McInnes, sort of like I think people would say maybe overstayed his welcome at Aberdeen after a while. But then when you look at the subs, the money that's been spent from the two teams, and then you look at the subs coming off the bench for Kilmarnock, you're like, Watson would definitely be playing for Aberdeen. Kevin Van Veen would definitely be starting for Aberdeen, and that's like quite telling when if Kilmarnock have got guys coming off the bench that would get their start for Aberdeen who have spent about £3 million on their team. Really, not good, lads. Not good.
Okay, now it's time for our final feature, which is In the Mud. And this week we are looking at Craig Levein and St Johnstone Football Club, who, I meant to write this down, but it's something ridiculous, like only one win in their last 10, and they were defeated 2-0 at the weekend by St Mirren without really doing much or like laying a glove on their hosts whatsoever.
I meant to check this as well, but I think this is right. I think they are the lowest scoring team in UK professional football.
Jesus. They are like we talked about Livy earlier, and this is where Livy have got a bit of hope even if they don't catch County. And I know that Johnson have got a few more points on. Let me just check the league table to see where they're all sitting. But
St Johnstone have 8 points on Livingston. They have 2 points on
8 points with 11 to go. It seems very unlikely, but the
got to play them twice.
But the thing about St Johnstone is just like Livy started, like Tony said earlier, Livy are starting to look like they can now score goals. Whereas St Johnstone, there's just nothing going for them in an attacking sense. Nicky Clark came back for this one of the rare starts he's able to make when he's not injured all the time, and yet they were still like toothless going forward. And it's funny seeing St Johnstone fans saying this, and I mentioned this I think on the podcast before when I've seen St Johnstone fans, even when things weren't that bad, saying that they didn't think that Levein necessarily had like a plan of attack, like how to attack, and that was very much the case in his second time at Hearts. It was like, right, focus on the defence, make sure we don't give away anything too cheap. Well, they obviously did and have been doing recently. But then it doesn't seem like there's any kind of like, right, we're going to score goals this way. This is what we're going to work on in training. This is what we want you to go here. We want you to do this. We want to focus on this. It's very much like, I'm here to sort out the defence and then just give the attackers the ball and they can just sort it out themselves. Which isn't going to work as well because they only had like 3 attacking players in the entire team. Like they had the 2 forwards. Even then, Nicky Clark was dropping so deep.
The average position of St Johnstone players in this game is, again, quite frightening of the St Johnstone team because basically it's like a little sliver basically either side or just in their own half side of the pitch as well. And some of the selections he made in this game are absolutely mad as well. Like Tony Gallagher, who basically only has a left foot playing at right wing back. Like, what are you doing, mate? That's not even where he doesn't know where to stand there. Like you can play right backs at left back. You cannot play left backs at right back because they've never had to go there because there's no football team in the world is like, oh, I've got loads of left footed players. Can you go play right back, mate? No, of course I fucking can.
Yeah, and just them two in general as well, like Robinson and Gallagher as wing backs. Neither of them are that great in terms of attacking, they can't go change the game. So they've got the two forwards and they've got Graeme Carey, and that's pretty much it. That they can only go and score a goal or do something to win you the match. And they just had nothing really in this one. It's just really poor from. And Levein's already kind of there's already a lot of fans like saying like, right, okay, I've had enough of this. I don't want Levein to be a manager, but he's got a 3-year deal.
Do you know?
Did they give him 3 years?
Yes,
of course they did. Everyone gets a 3 year.
Why?
It's Tony Scottish football. Everyone gets a 3-year deal.
That's actually blown my soul. I didn't realise that at all. Why? I mean,
it's like
I think it's technically 2.5 years, but yeah, until 2026.
It's the Oprah Winfrey gag of everyone gets a car, but everyone gets a 3-year deal. It's Johnston, like fucking God. But do you know? Just before, like, so Levein's now been in charge for 18 games. Stephen McLean lasted 19 games. Do you want to know their respective records?
Oh, no, I saw this earlier.
So Levein's played 18, won 4, drew 6, lost 9. McLean, 19 games, won 4, drew 5, lost 9. So there's a point between them.
And if they lose their next game, he'll have a worse record than McLean in his first 19 games.
Yeah, basically, I mean, 19 games is a stupid way to judge anything, basically.
Yeah.
The point remains. The difference for McLean and Levein is that Livingston have been terrible under Levein, whereas they picked up points under McLean, which is why St Johnstone were bottom. And why they're no longer bottom is because Livingston stopped picking up points.
Mm-hmm.
If Livingston start picking up points, I suspect that may turn around. And like you say, 8 points is a big gap. Livingston play St Johnstone twice. They play them pre-split, post-split, which means if Livingston picked up 3 points anywhere else, because again, St Johnstone are in such a fucking doldrums whether they're going to win a game, they're on terms with them. They're past them.
I don't want to be unfair here. I won't watch how I say, but is Levein? Are we starting to see that Levein is sort of very much yesterday's man? You know, you refer to managers as dinosaurs and stuff, and I don't want to be overly rude, but is that kind of the way you're describing this time at the end of Hearts and what we're seeing here, where it's just looking after one part of the team, and then all the strikers just make things happen rather than any sort of patterns of play? Sounds pretty old school. And then we've got the whole sand dunes thing. For pre-season training.
I'm just startled. At Tony being worried about offending Craig Levein. Like, bit weird.
I did think towards it. Like, I did think in his Hearts, the second Hearts tenure, that football had kind of passed him by, and he wasn't able to evolve enough with the times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's been a bit of revisionism about it since then, and that the big problem, and obviously it was a huge problem, was the fact that he was trying to do 2 jobs at once, and he was recruiting and he was also being the manager of the team. And at a club the size of Hearts, you ideally don't want that to be the case. But while he did sign a lot of shite, there was a lot of talent in the team that was underperforming in his watch. So it wasn't just about the fact that he just signed bad players. It was also the fact that he didn't know how to get the best out of them. And I hasten to say it the same as St Johnstone, because I don't think their team's very good. But they could certainly be doing... And the St Johnstone fans are fed up as well, because this is what they had to put up with under Davidson. So yeah, they won the cup double, and that's undoubtedly an incredible thing that it's kind of worth...
Blah, blah, blah.
It's worth the kind of pain of the Callum Davidson era in general. But they were fed up. The football was dreadful. And then this season, it was kind of dreadful under McLean, as he was like, gave himself, like, well, just signed very poorly, or brought in a number of players who weren't ready to hit the ground running when he really needed them to. So now they've got another manager, but it's just kind of really turgid and terrible football to watch. And you think, well, were the right teams like that? No, they actually weren't. St Johnstone usually played 4-4-2, and they played. I mean, they could be quite rudimentary at times, but they were attacking and they were aggressive, and they would play with like 2 wingers and creative players and 2 forwards. And they would go at teams, and there's just none of that now, and it's just really pish to watch.
It's like, just to go back to this 3-year deal, 2.5-year deal, but like Levein's been at work for ages, and he was never going to be doing a job at St Johnstone where people are going to be banging down the door to try and get Craig Levein as their manager. So I just don't understand where the offer of the security needed to be given. He could easily just 18 months, easily, and he would have signed it. Of course he would have. He's not had the job for ages. He's been doing a podcast. And like, he definitely would have. He definitely would have took it.
To be fair, Tony, it would take a 2.5-year deal to get me off the terrace for anyone listening.
But yeah, because I thought when he first came in,
are you the next Motherwell CEO?
I'll just do some tweets.
He's so, like when he first came in, I thought like when he put Jaisimi up front, I thought that was pretty smart. And there was things that he'd done that I was like, right, he's worked out how to get the best out of a bad bunch, and just using certain types of players with certain attributes in certain role to try and create like a balanced sort of team. But that's sort of like drowned out. That's gone. It's not enough. He can't keep. There's not enough for him to keep on doing it. I just think he'll feel pretty hamstrung by the squad as well. Just not a lot of it to do, and either just. And then when they're so shit to watch, you think St Johnstone are that's again the winning the cup double means that it's the deal with the devil type stuff. You get that, but now what you get in return is you will never enjoy a football match ever again.
And sorry, St Mirren fans, we're not really going to say much about you guys to finish this podcast because it was standard St Mirren stuff. St Johnstone had more of the ball because St Mirren were just basically like, yeah, you have the ball. You're not going to do anything with it. They waited on St Johnstone to concede possession in bad areas and then they punished them for it. And it was just the kind of usual suspects that played well this campaign. Gogic was good in defence. Tanzer, he's having a very good season. He was good again. Kilty, again, somebody who's kind of bounced back this campaign, having a good year. Mandron, I mean, he only got one goal, but he's basically, it's him that gets the two. He's been a good number 9 for them. He had another good game.
Two goals from 10 deflections.
And Kwon Q, we're going with that. He was excellent again and looks like one of the best additions that anybody's made in the Scottish top flight in the January window. Not really much else to add on that. I think, will that do us?
Sure will, mate.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Right. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you to Graeme.
Thank you.
I already gave my Patreon plug at the top of the podcast, so I don't need to do it now. All I can also say is if you want to watch this podcast, then we are available on youtube.com. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok and X.
I like the idea of like people listen to this podcast and then when you tell them at the end they could also watch it, they just go back and watch it again.
I'm gonna see if that doesn't happen, but you never know. You never know. Some people have too much time in their hands. Definitely not us though. Right, thank you very much for listening and we will talk to you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.